Chartres Cathedral, and it is a major piece for us because it has 6 images, and it is really the only piece that is from the Gothic period of the Middle Ages. I'm going to cover mostly 4 of these images, and then in class I'll cover this image particularly and refer to this image. So the context for Chartres Cathedral is that Gothic architecture began in Paris, France, and then spread out to about 100 miles outside of Paris. And our Chartres Cathedral is one of those cathedrals that is a Gothic architecture piece. You can tell it's ours because the 2 towers are different. Also, context. What makes Chartres Cathedral important for Christians is that at one point they were given or acquired this cloth from a church in Constantinople. This cloth is allegedly the veil that the Virgin Mary wore when she gave birth to the baby Jesus. And in 1194, there was a fire here at Chartres Cathedral caused by a bolt of lightning. Most of the church was burnt down except for the front and one of the towers. So 3 days after the fire, miraculously, this veil was rediscovered, and the townspeople felt like it was a message from heaven that they should rebuild the church. And so money was sent from all over France to help them rebuild this church. Ultimately, they ended up acquiring also the skull of Saint Anne, who is the mother of Virgin Mary. More context, people from Paris, where there is the Notre Dame, that burned down a couple years ago, Notre Dame of Paris, which means the Our Lady Church, Our Lady of Paris, they would walk 60 miles to Our Lady of Chartres Cathedral. And this is all in honor of the Virgin Mary. So another name for Chartres Cathedral is Notre Dame de Chartres. Chartres, not Chartres. The function of this church then is that it is a destination for people who pilgrimage from Notre Dame de Paris to Notre Dame de Chartres. But it is also on the route for people who are pilgrimaging from anywhere in Europe to Santiago de Compostela. So remember the Church of Saint Foy, major draw for pilgrims. This church is also a draw from pilgrims who would like to see that veil and the skull of Saint Anne. Another function of this church is that this cathedral, is that a bishop from the Catholic Church would be at this cathedral, and they would have this bigger chair to sit in. Bishop is higher than a priest. The final function of Chartres Cathedral is that in the Middle Ages, it served as a place of learning. People would gather here at the cathedral. There was enough synergy going on, and humanities, farming, science, whatever was being discussed and written about here. This image here, or sculpture of Pythagoras, kind of proves the interest in learning the Pythagorean theorem. This sculpture is above the west portal of the church, the west door. I keep saying church and cathedral. I can call this church, but I can't call some churches cathedrals. Okay, in terms of form, it started off as a Romanesque cathedral. And what I've circled in blue is what remains of that Romanesque featuring. And remember the church here of Saint Foy, Romanesque has, if you look down here, smaller windows, and it has rounded arches. So that's what survived the fire. And when they rebuilt in 1194, the builders really went to what was in vogue, and that was Gothic. So the features of Gothic that you should know are that there are pointed arches in play. There's ribbed vaulting, flying buttresses, super ornate decoration, and heavy on the stained glass windows. Now, this church had stained glass prior to the rise of Gothic architecture. But definitely Gothic architecture is going to take that stained glass and keep going with it. Okay, this is an example of the Gothic ornate decoration. Here's the original spire on the right, and this would be a Gothic spire. Now, this particular spire, they don't have it here in this reconstructed date, but it was built in the 16th century, in the 1500s, so it's got me puzzling a bit. This right here that you see in these windows, this is filigree. It's made of limestone. Can you imagine carving that? But this is just super fancy filigree added on to make it ornate. Ribbed vaulting and pointed arches. I didn't write that on here. It should say pointed arches. We're familiar with the barrel vault from the Colosseum, and we have a groin vault here from Roman era too, when two barrel vaults are connected. Well, if you can imagine, just take this circle of the groin vault and make it pointy, then you have what's called a ribbed vault. And when we look at this floor plan, you can see these X's here. These are piers, just like in Hagia Sophia, and these X's or these lines indicate a ribbed vault. I'll show you that now on the inside. So this is a pier, and coming up here is a ribbing of the ribbed vault. So pretty amazing. It allows the walls to be thinner, and it allows the church to be taller. Makes that inside, that we're all about light. And so we've got this light and airy feeling going on as a result. More interior vocabulary. On the sides of, where we have an aisle here, if you have a row of arches along this way, this is called an arcade. Above the arcade on the wall, because we got lots of space, they built this decorative triforium. Now, you can see these are different color limestone here. Perhaps somebody can walk behind these, but I don't think it's not going to be the visitors like you and me going there that get to. So very decorative. And then up at the very top, we're familiar with this. This is a clerestory letting in a lot of light. Now, supporting this, making it go up higher, are these very thick piers. You can notice here, right, the base of the pier, this looks like a massive column, and here more columns. So we have that decoration, but these columns are more a decorative design. It's the concept of a pier that is moving these walls way up high. Speaking of high, here we are reaching for the heavens. And what helps us to reach for the heavens, what helps to keep these walls thin and going higher, are these little critters right here. These are flying buttresses, right? You go up high with something, you need some support, pushing in on either side to hold it steady. That's what these flying buttresses do. And here's what they look like on the outside of Chartres Cathedral. They're much thinner than those that we see on the Hagia Sophia. Remember those big blocky buttresses? These are flying, which means that they're thin here at the top, and then they go down to become thicker at the bottom. So a little more airy up here. Then those thin walls going up high allow us to build massive stained glass programs into this church. So at the center, I want you to, I know you can't see it very well, but this is Mary again. So this church is kind of all about, Notre Dame, Our Lady. And this just shows you all of the stained glass that are here. We are particularly concerned with this stained glass. It is called the Blue Virgin Window. And here we have the Virgin Mary dressed in blue, which was a great color. Some say it was lost after for a time, but it was very, very expensive to create. This window is important because architecturally important because in existence when they built the church the first time in Romanesque style. So it's not like Gothic, created the stained glass, just kept perfecting it and adding them to their structures. What's important about her, she is frontal. The baby Jesus is frontal. He is blessing us with his hand right here. Do you see that blessing? We're going to talk a little more about that. And Mary is acting as his throne, which she will do also at the front of the building. And in this time in history, contextually, you want to write this down too. Sorry. At this point in history, Mary became more and more important. And people felt like they could pray to Mary and she would intercede for them with Jesus because she was his mother. And the Catholic Church felt that just like Mary was the mother of Jesus, she was the mother of the church, and the church really represented Jesus. So that's why she could be the mother of the church. All right, Chartres Cathedral.